As inspired by the many real-world human interpretations of the MLP characters, I have since decided to create my own. I had originally generated a set of Equestria Girls photo manips back in late 2022 of my initial ideas, but I have since decided to illustrate them from scratch in order to branch out and expand upon their designs. Note that not all ideas will remain the same as they were in 2022 due to some ideas naturally changing, as well as drawing from scratch allowing me to branch out into more unique body, hair and attire types. Please note that these are my personal interpretations of the characters and do not transgress the boundaries of headcanon-based redesigns. They are bound to be different to yours and other fans' interpretations as they are unique to my perspective. That is the beauty of headcanons. They're unique. Feel free to share your own as I'm always happy to discuss, just don't transgress the boundaries of civil discussion. First off, I had begun with my all-time favourite, Fluttershy. The pale pink of her hair instantly led me to believe that she is strawberry blonde. I know she spends a lot of time outside with the animals, so realistically she could have quite tan skin, but that's not the case all the time as not everyone tans. Plus, I imagine her to spend a lot of time in the shade of the trees. She does live near a forest, as well as my own personal biases, hence she has some similarities with myself. I kept her green eyes and gave her a flowing green dress to match, tapping into cottagecore aesthetics. Many argue that she is not cottagecore, and to that I say fiddlesticks, because her house is the definition of cottagecore, as well as the green and yellow tones in her palette linking in well with it. I am aware the main six are American, mostly having Canadian voice actresses, but my Fluttershy is from the Republic of Ireland. Irish accents are described as quite sing-songy, which aligns well with the cadence of Fluttershy's voice, though her accent would have definitely faded over time, living in the North American-inspired geography of Equestria. Not every ginger person is Irish, but as mentioned previously, her Irishness is influenced by the cadence in her voice, as well as a sort of Celtic cultural association I see from her connection to the nature and singing, as well as me wanting her to be quite close to home since I am from England. I could have made her English if I wanted to. I was really tempted to make her Cornish, but I don't particularly see it within her much. The Irish accent also matches her a lot more due to the similar R pronunciations within Irish and American accents. Similarly, not every ginger person has freckles, but I did give her some subtle freckles just to spice it up a little bit. In regards to her creed, she is pagan, specifically Celtic pagan due to her Gaelic origins, but also due to it aligning well with her connection to the nature, specifically leading me to interpret her as a pantheist like myself. As a child, I've always interpreted Fluttershy and Rarity as best friends within the main six, which is sort of canon.
Obviously, Fluttershy's just too busy with her new career to spend time with her best friend.
Similarly, in my book, Fluttershy is married to Discord. It's not canon as the writers did want it to be ambiguous to leave fans to draw their own conclusions. And as an all-time Fluttercord shipper, Fluttercord is the endgame in my book. Probably going to get a few comments saying that you, Lana Del Rey stans, need to stop romanticising age gap relationships. And to that, I'm going to say that Fluttercord is moral. Age gap relationship, yes. Canonically, the main six are all young adults, as stated by Lauren Forst. My interpretation is that they are at least 20 in season 1 and age with the series, putting them in mid to latter 20s in late season 9 before the 20-year time skip in The Last Problem. Remember that Discord was stoned for 1,000 years, therefore his aging would have frozen anyway, so he could just be this guy in his late 30s as opposed to being an elderly guy. If you argue that he's got white hair, I argue that he has a white beard. His hair is black. Lyra has white hair. You still ship her with Bonbon. My Fluttershy is pansexual. That is quite a common headcanon, especially due to her colour palette, but personally I just get the vibe. I've also put her down for social anxiety because I've said so. Possibly selective mutism as well, but I've just put social anxiety for now. And just tell me you don't have social anxiety disorder without telling me you don't have social anxiety disorder if you're going to criticise how Fluttershy keeps learning the same lesson over and over again. I mean, Rainbow Dash constantly learns the same lesson over and over again and her hubris does not diminish, and I don't see you complaining about that. But alas, you can overcome social anxiety. It's just really difficult. And I, just like Fluttershy, I'm getting better every day, but it is still there and it's not something that's overcome in one sitting or one night. And like what Fluttershy tells us in Philly Vanilli, baby steps.
Baby steps.
I could go on a whole tangent about social anxiety, neurodiversity, non-verbalism, but I think I'm going to leave it there. Some popular Fluttershy headcanons include hijabi Fluttershy, Hindu Fluttershy, and Ukrainian Fluttershy. People also believe her to be taller than most due to her Philly self being tall, but I heavily disagree, as being tall as a child does not mean that you'll be tall as an adult. Due to sort of making her in my image, I put her on the short side. Though not intentional, she did end up being the shortest of my main 6 redesigns, and I've been talking about Fluttershy for 10 minutes straight. This is her design, and essentially I looked at her and this is what I imagined. In my headcanons, skin tones and ethnicities are simply configured by intuition or personal association, such as a popular fan VA of a certain character having a particular ethnicity, or a cultural association like with Fluttershy. Skin tones are not equal to the levels of their coat colours. Pinkie Pie is really interesting, as there's a lot of debate regarding if she is a black-coded character. It is evident that there are characters coded as specific ethnicities within the show, for example, Saffron Masala, but the main characters are a little bit more ambiguous. Personally, I believe that when Pinkie Pie was first designed, she was not intended to be coded to any specific race, the main 6 being blank canvases. She also has a white voice actress, which doesn't mean much, but a studio like DHX could have hired a VA of colour if she were to be black. However, it is evident that later within the show, most likely when fans began to interpret her hair as being afro, the show staff decided to embrace it, for example, giving her an afro pick in Equestria Girls. Personally, I do think that her hair in Book Ball season does look like afro puffs to me as opposed to regular space buns, so I have decided to make my Pinkie Pie African American. My original pitch did depict her as mixed with a medium skin tone, therefore keeping her afro due to African descent, but also winning the game of whether Pinkie Pie is black or white or not. More on why I think Pinkie Pie is mixed will be mentioned later. Technically she is still mixed, only I have given her albinism. I saw an interpretation that quite literally made her skin pink as a human, playing on pink undertones, winning the argument that she is pink, which inspired me to give her sort of pink undertones. Also, unique skin conditions like vitiligo and albinism really interest me, so I figured it worthwhile to go down this route. I worried that she'd end up looking a little too similar to Fluttershy due to wanting to keep the pink tones within her hair, but I've still managed to differentiate the two through ethnic features. Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy get mixed up by parents anyway, trust me. I used a special brush to illustrate her afro. I love drawing characters with long flowy hair like mine, but I kept Pinkie Pie's shorter to diversify it a little bit, as well as her hair canonically being more on the shorter side within the show. As with my original design, I have given her a kidcore aesthetic, slightly inspired by the bright colours associated with soft play areas, liminal spaces and kids' parties. Also her bubbly childlike demeanour. I gave her a denim skirt as I imagine her to be the type of person to paint daisies on it. A common interpretation is that she is plus sized. I don't really like the idea of her being plus sized just because she eats a lot of sweets. Your weight doesn't always equate to what you eat. It can, but not always. Some people just have different body types, and that's fine too. It's just been an association I have with Pinkie Pie. And for the people saying we shouldn't include plus size rep because it promotes unhealthy lifestyles and obesity, need to realise that being skinny does not mean that you're healthy. One word for you: anorexia. People have diverse body types in real life, and I don't think we should be afraid to depict them in our art. Sometimes albinism tends to lead to slight purplish coloured eyes. First person to mention Alexandria's Genesis, I see you. And usually visual impairments due to the lack of melanin, so I imagine her to wear contacts or possibly glasses to aid with this. The purple also allowed me to slightly modify the original blue colour of her eyes. Her family is canonically inspired by the Amish, so I imagine her to be ex-Christian. Her move to Ponyville symbolising her leaving the church and realising Christianity just wasn't for her. And like Fluttershy, I am getting slight pantheist vibes from Pinkie Pie. I saw someone on TikTok associate Pinkie Pie's mother as being white and her father as being black African, of which I agree with that person and I can definitely see that within their designs, therefore making Pinkie Pie and her sisters mixed. The Amish did originate in Europe, such as Germany and Switzerland, so I imagine her mother to have ancestry from there before they moved to North America. Lauren Force did say that Pinkie Pie was intended to, or does, have ADHD. She is from Sierra Leone on her father's side. No particular reason why I put Sierra Leone as her country of origin. It's just my favourite African nation. It's got a really pretty name, which actually translates to mountain lions, or lion mountains. She's also pansexual, as I imagine her to be someone who, quote unquote, just likes people. And I went with the canon of her being married to Weird Al's pony Sona, because it just makes sense, and I don't know who else to put Pinkie Pie with. Also, you may have noticed that the speed paint here is different to the illustration of her I posted on my Instagram, and that was because I just wanted to redraw her pose to make her more energetic, like her personality. Forgot to mention, another popular headcanon of Pinkie Pie is that she is Scottish, sort of taking on an appearance similar to Merida. I love that interpretation, but I don't personally see it in her. I did play around and experiment with different hair colours and skin tones. One of them actually takes influence from a dream I had, whereas the ginger does come from the Scottish interpretation of Pinkie Pie. Rainbow Dash is the character I resonate with the least. I admire her protection of Fluttershy and Gilda in their younger years, but I don't really like her hubris, and I don't like how rude she can be at times. But this is my personal redesign of her, so maybe I could fall in love with her here. My original pitch for Rainbow Dash was some sort of sporty attire. I generated the sketch, and I was like, I'm so bored drawing this. But then I saw a gorgeous piece of fan art that depicted scene Rainbow Dash, and I instantly fell in love with it. So I edited my sketch in order to contain more scene aesthetics and influence of the subculture. There is so much conflict within the fandom of whether Rainbow Dash would be seen or not. Personally, I'm saying yes. But that may be due to personal biases and association from my early fandom days, when a lot of 2012 and 2013 cosplayers at the time would depict Rainbow Dash with a scene-styled wig. I didn't want to ignore her very active occupation, so although her attire is slightly scene-influenced, I didn't give her proper denim shorts, more so jegging type material or denim coloured to be more aerodynamic. I gave her quite summery clothes to reflect her outdoor and active occupation, but this is more so her attire on a day of less vigorous exercise and maybe just chilling in town with Pinkie Pie, hence the heavy belts I've given her. Oh well, I'm not very good at drawing trainers, but I have given her Nike Airs. She does canonically have really pointy eyelashes, so I've been exaggerating them here. Also tapping into scene conventions of eye makeup. I don't think she'd spent ages on it, maybe just a little dash of eyeliner. Maybe Fluttershy helped her find her style. I've jumped between different ethnicities for Rainbow Dash, but I think Filipino is the one I'm sticking with that sort of represents my interpretation of her the most. The general fandom census seems to interpret her as lesbian, and I agree. I strongly believe that she'd be an atheist, as well as ADHD always just being something I've interpreted within her as well. And with that, I will leave it there. I was originally going to do all 9 in one video, but I've since decided to split it into 3 parts in order to go into more detail with my analysis of each character. I've known these characters for almost 14 years, so I really wanted to share my intricate perspectives upon them. And obviously went on a huge tangent talking about Fluttershy. You know how much I love her. So part 2 and eventually part 3 will be coming soon. And if you are a new viewer, hello, I'm Marianne. Feel free to stick by me for more illustration and MLP videos. I will admit that channel uploads are a little bit slow in this early summer season due to prioritising a mini audio drama web series I'm producing with some voice actor friends at the moment. So feel free to stick by, and as always, thank you for listening and watching, and good night.